our pod. And by that, I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who are doing a deep dive into a different book series, one book at a time. Right now, we are shiting on the Wheel of Time, and we are looking at the fourth book in Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series, The Shadow Rising. And today we will be covering chapters 1 through 29. So the first half of this book, which will still involve a lot of talking. So,
This will be a long episode still, even though it's half of the book.
Which is why we're cutting these into half episodes. But until that time, Laura, what are you reading, watching, and or enjoying?
So I've just been reading The Shadow Rising, but I have watched some new shows. I got a free trial of Peacock. And so I watched Girls Five Eva because that was your recommendation. And I texted you the other day that this show reeks of Tina Fey.
Oh my God, yeah. It's all about Tina Fey.
It just does. Like Sarah Bareilles plays the Tina Fey part if Tina were in this.
I mean, Tina is in this.
She is Dolly Parton in this, which I was so surprised by how good her impression was, because sometimes she doesn't have the best impressions, but it was a really good impression of Dolly, honestly.
So funny story. I was listening to like a little interview with them, and they had originally wanted Dolly Parton. So they like asked Dolly Parton, and then like
she didn't do a lot of that kind of stuff.
Well, she didn't get back to them, and they were like, yeah, but like Dolly's so nice up here, she'll do this. And then it like just got closer to the time, and then it was like a week before in COVID, and they're like, so we don't think Dolly's coming, so who could play this part? So like Tina Fey got brought in randomly because they had been hoping for Dolly Parton, and it didn't work out.
She's probably busy, like contributing millions to coronavirus research and saving the world, that kind of thing, being an amazing person. So I get it. It's fine, Dolly. Yes. You're excused. Tina did a really good impression of you.
Yes, she did.
Because sometimes people don't do very good impressions of her, but that was a pretty good one. I thought she had the voice pretty good for Tina. But yeah, that show is really good. I really enjoyed it, and I feel like if you like any of Tina's other shows, you'll definitely like Girls Five Eva.
Oh yeah, I loved that show. It's so cute and fun. And
oh yeah, definitely
unique. So
the other one I was watching was Rutherford Falls.
Oh, what did you think of that one? I've heard good things.
I'm not that far into it. I've watched 3 episodes. I think there's 10, but I really like it so far. It's one of those things where it's like a town divided because there's indigenous people, and they run a casino, and there's this Rutherford family who has a museum, and they're kind of credited for being the founders of the town, and they have this big statue that's in an obnoxious location that people are running into and everything. And Ed Helms plays this, I think it's Nathan is his name, Nathan Rutherford, who is trying to secure the Rutherford legacy, and the indigenous people are kind of pushing back on him.
Okay.
I don't necessarily like the indigenous people being like kind of the villainous characters. That's kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth, but
nuance to it.
Yeah,
like you understand why they would want to get rid of the Rutherford legacy, because
correct,
colonialism.
Correct. But like I said, I'm only 3 episodes in, but the guy that's kind of like leading this push with the casino and everything, he is an indigenous person, and he is kind of portrayed. I think you kind of get the vibe that he's like the villain, and we'll see where it goes. Yeah, but so far it's really good. And then the girl that plays Regan, she is very good. I really like her. I think she's my favorite character. But there's a scene where she goes to meet a reporter, and she gets out of her car, and she has coffee in one of those little coffee carrier things in one hand, and also has her purse on that hand. She goes to slam the car door. The purse gets caught in the car door, and she ends up having her arm jerked back and spills coffee all over herself. And she says, "I'm Regan." That's actually pretty on par for a first meeting with me. And I was like, that is very funny.
That is very cute. I like that a lot.
But then Dustin Milligan from Schitt's Creek is in this.
He plays the reporter. I knew that. Yeah.
And Regan makes a comment about how you didn't mention that the reporter was aggressively attractive.
He is aggressively attractive. I rewatched Schitt's Creek recently, and I was just like, he's so cute. Like, he's such a cute character. Like, I love all his puns. And, like,
yes. There's not as much of that so far, but
right.
It's funny, the back and forth between Regan and the character Bobby, because they say something like, I already gave him my social security number. You need to get here now because they're worried about what they would say to him
Oh my
because he's so
gosh.
attractive and he's a reporter.
Isn't he like a podcaster though? Like it's like a podcast reporter?
No, I think
I
Dustin's
I
character
I
works
have
for like a big newspaper
okay, they just made
because
a
he
joke
says
about
something about
podcasting, so that's my
there is a
bad.
podcast situation that goes down that is
Oh, okay.
unfortunate, but that's in I think the second episode.
Got it.
But it's funny because the character Bobby, they also work at this museum with Nathan, and they're left in charge while Regan runs out really quick, and that's when Dustin shows up, of course, and
Of course.
Bobby just panics being alone with this very attractive reporter and calls Regan for backup and
Okay.
says, you need to get here now. I've already given him my social security number. I don't know what else I'm gonna say. And
That's so fun.
it's fun. And the character Bobby's really good too. I like them.
Okay. I like it. I need to check it out.
What have you been reading and watching?
Well, I've been reading The Shadow Rising.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm going to pull Laura and just suggest some books that I love this
Yeah,
week.
do it.
One will be the Dublin Murder Squad series by
Okay.
Tana French. She is like from Ireland and she writes
Okay.
this like detective murder series that is very fun and I very much enjoy. And I'm not great about reading series. Like Laura and I had to do a podcast, so I'd actually finish one because I'm pretty terrible about finishing series.
Same.
It's not because I don't enjoy series, just like there's so many other books out there that sometimes I
huge
forget.
commitment.
Yeah. So I've actually read all of those throughout the past like 3.5 years, I want to say. And some of them are like mediocre, but they're all fun. Like they're all very fun jokes. I believe that there are, let me pull that up for you. I believe there's 5 or 6. No, wait, no. I believe there are, in fact, 6. Yes, there's 6. And I actually started with the 6th one, which is called The Trespasser, which is probably one of the better ones in the series.
Oh, you don't have to read them in order?
You don't. Well, like there are some minor, there's never spoilers on like the murder mystery aspect, but each book features a different detective. So like the first book is one detective, the next book is like his partner. The third book is like this other guy, but he interacts with this one man and he's in the 4th book. So it's like it jumps around to different people.
Okay. So kind of similar to like an Agatha Christie type situation where you have similar characters that keep reappearing in the books, but you don't have to technically read them in a sequential order.
Exactly. So those are very fun. And I also would do There's Nothing to See Here by Kevin.
Yes.
There's Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson.
I read that.
So good and cute and lighthearted. Like it's such a weird little book. And
it is.
I highly suggest it. The premise is this woman who's kind of like listless gets a phone call from like her successful boarding school friend who's like, I need you to watch my 2 stepchildren because they like her husband's running for like political office and the children randomly just catch on fire if they're upset. Right. And so she has to like learn how to deal with them after the death of their mother. And it's such a funny little book. And I loved reading it. So I heavily like suggest that one. It's just it's weird.
Neat like, too, like how their relationship progresses and how she kind of starts off as being not interested in it and just there for the money, maybe to just kind of see what's going on with her boarding school friend. And they also have a rocky relationship, but then she kind of becomes really invested in the kids and really loves them. So
yeah, I really loved that book. And then for watching, I currently like turned on a recent episode of like I was watching Criminal Minds for a long time off and on because it's an easy show. And then I went to watch like the 200th episode and I was like, oh no, it went off the rails by this time. And I just started back on episode 1. And I was like, I don't need to see any of the new stuff. Like it gets pretty bad, but it's a fun procedural for people who are interested in that kind of stuff.
I've never seen that, but.
Oh, you've never seen Criminal? Well, are you like a Law and Order fan though?
I was definitely a Law and Order person.
Okay. I feel like Criminal Minds is like on par with Law and Order. It does a little bit more like psychology stuff. Less of the law aspect, which is fine. I'm a lawyer. I know how that works. And
I was definitely into Law and Order SVU and on the Benson and Stabler train. And since I have this Peacock free trial, I'm thinking about watching a little bit of that Law and Order Organized Crime since they brought Stabler back just for the show.
I mean, I watched the first 2 episodes with my dad because it's all he watches in his retirement. And It's not great.
Really?
Like, it's not the problem with Law and Order. And I also, guys, I will caveat this with there's a problem with Law and Order in the way it treats like cops and professionals and how they
Sure.
always catch the bad guy. And I think that needs to be said out loud. But Law and Order, it's like the good thing is it's episodic. And like,
Mhm.
although there are overarching storylines,
This
everything is
organized
like,
crime is not.
it's not like episodic because
Mhm.
it's about organized crime. So it's about the in-depth analysis of a long-term
Right.
investigation. And that's not why I watch Law and Order. I'm
Sure.
not interested in it. So that's my one caveat with organized crime.
Yeah, it is kind of nice to be able to check in and check out
Yes.
on the episode where you don't have to be like, oh, what's going to happen next week?
Although I do own one episode on Amazon of Law and Order Trial by Jury because I
Okay.
was watching Law and Order SVU with my dad and there was a crossover episode, but you can't just watch the crossover. Like they didn't buy that episode for some reason. So like
Okay.
you see the first half of the episode where they arrest the guy at the end and then you don't know what happens to him if you didn't have the trial
that's
by
annoying.
jury episode. So we were watching it. Dad was like, I really want to see what happens. And I was like, well, I could buy it for like $2. And he's like, yeah, do that. And so I own one
Oh my gosh.
episode of Trial by Jury. That's a true story.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, it's fine. Do you want? I had something I want to bring up with you. I know we have to get into the plot. And this is going to be a longer
What's up?
episode. But I recently saw a TikTok where it was joking about how all these people are finding out the plot line of Dear Evan Hansen, and like all these theater nerds are like, yeah, that's always been the plot. How did you not know that? And the way that like when mainstream people learn about like what a theater production is, they get really weirded out by it. And I was thinking about that because you and I are both huge theater people and I like thought it was normal to know plot lines of musicals, and apparently it's not normal. So
as in what do you mean
like
that they don't know?
People did not know that what the plot of Dear Evan Hansen was. With the dropping of the trailer, they like looked up what the plot was and they're like, are you seriously telling me that this is like a story of a kid who pretends he was friends with someone who committed suicide? And it's like, this has been around for years. Yes, that is exactly what Dear Evan. And they're like, that's sick. And it's just like, yes, but this has also been sick for a long time. Like it's just a weird thing where people don't know plot lines like that. And you and I both usually do. So that was a weird discovery for me.
I find that weird, but also, you know, I don't know, maybe other people don't think that it's handled well, but I think that they handle it fairly well in the musical.
Yes.
As well as a musical can. And also I just feel like I'm one of those people that if I see a new musical is coming out, I kind of look up what it's going to be about because you don't really tend to get previews of musicals. So how will you know if you're interested in them, I guess?
I also like listening to the music of it. So I like to know the context of what the song means. Yes. Like in the
that's how I was with Be More Chill. I listened to the music and I was trying to figure out like, what the heck is this about? So then I had to go and read the plot summary.
Well, that was like when you told me Netflix, like this is not musical, it's just a play, but The Boys in the Band like came out. I was like, oh yeah, I've read that plot like 3 times because I'm interested in the play and the production. So we're not normal, Laura. That's what I'm pointing out.
Also, I watched My Fair Lady last night with my husband and I recognized that I love that musical way too much and that movie because anytime like Rex Harrison would say anything, I would like kind of snarky or whatever, I would laugh and I would look over at my husband and he would not be laughing as much as me. And then I was like, I guess I'm just like obsessed with this musical and I have been since I was a little kid. So maybe I'm just emotionally invested in this where I'm like, this is so funny how he uses his really snarky British humor and
where are my slippers? I love that movie. I used to like be obsessed with the like Just You Wait, Henry Higgins, like that song. That used to be one of my favorites.
But I love all of them, honestly. Like they're so good. I was watching, well, I shouldn't say was watching. I watched the whole thing.
Get Me to the Church on Time. Oh
yeah, the dad is so very good. Like all the actors in it are very good. Yes. But I rewatched that not rewatched. Why do I keep saying that? I was watching the part where Freddie is outside of their house, but then she comes out, you know, when she leaves after the embassy ball or whatever, and she's singing Show Me. And I had never really paid that close of attention to Freddie before during that scene, but it's kind of comical how he's falling over garbage cans and his facial expressions. And I thought to myself, Laura, you need to kind of pay attention to some of the other characters in musicals who are not singing, because there's a lot of acting that goes on in that type of situation.
That's so funny. God, I loved that movie. When I'm on the Street
So
Where She
good.
Lives is like one of the most romantic songs to
Yes.
me ever. And it always
Yes.
broke my heart a little that she didn't end up with the person
I
who sang
know.
that. Like, you're
It's
just,
one of those things where it's like, okay,
it's such a
I'll
good
be
I Want
honest,
song. Like,
I have always just, because of that movie and because the movie just makes you, I feel like I've always just been like, I love Rex Harrison. He is amazing. I kind of have a crush on him. And it's one of those things where watching it again, I think, okay, yeah, but he was always mean to her. And
you know,
Freddie loved her from the second he met her, thought she was great. He laughed at some of the things that she said, but not in a mean way, in a way where it's like, oh my gosh, bit the bowl off the spoon. Are you kidding me? That's amazing to put it that way.
He's charmed by her.
Yes.
This
And
is
everything she did, he was just like, oh, darling, that's amazing. And it's like she's saying some really weird stuff.
right.
Like ladled gin down her aunt's throat. And she's pretty sure that that's not what killed her. Somebody done her in.
Oh my gosh. I need to rewatch My Fair Lady. That sounds like such a great night. I'm glad you rewatched that. That's beautiful. I also like that you and I have just slowly learned in our adult life that all the men we rooted for in movies are men we shouldn't have been rooting for.
Like last night, I'm watching that. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I love Rex Harrison. And then you're listening to some of the things he's saying to her, and you're like, he is awful to Eliza. Like, I should not be rooting for him to end up with her. What is wrong with me?
I was like looking at an article that's like the best New Girl jokes, and one of them was when Jess describes her like taste in men, and it's like, I don't like the put together man. I like the man that I need to take care of, who thinks a rich person stole their idea.
Yes.
Yeah. I was just like, oh God, that is such an accurate portrayal of like all the toxic men we were taught to like as children.
So did you ever watch any musicals with Howard Keel in them?
I don't know. I'm terrible at
I
knowing
was big on all of the old musicals, so I'd watch like Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. That was another one.
Brothers was one of my favorites.
So Howard Keel was the star of that one. He was in Showboat and Kiss Me Kate.
Okay.
A lot of those musicals I loved. I loved Howard Keel. But then when I look back on, I was thinking about this last night watching My Fair Lady and this Rex Harrison revelation. And I was thinking about Seven Brides for Seven Brothers because that may be one of my...
It's my all-time favorite.
Seven Brides for Seven Brothers is?
Yeah, it is.
I was going to say that may be my favorite musical.
But they talk... Oh, God.
That or My Fair Lady. I may have wore out my VHS of Seven Brides for Seven Brothers because for a period of time I watched it almost every night. I feel like after school.
That musical does not age well. Like if you did not watch it as a child.
That's what I was going to mention. That why did I love this man so much when he was horrible to her?
They were singing.
Adam was the worst.
Adam was the worst. And at one point, he convinces all his brothers to take women into the mountains as like
they steal a bunch of these women and then block
6 women and then block the pass so they can't go home in hopes that they will like fall in love with them and quote unquote be married.
Stockholm syndrome. It always works.
And then they're like mad when the woman who lives out at the farm with them is like, no, you guys sleep in the barn, stay away from these girls and protect them. And like, he's like, fine, I'm going to leave you for like 9 months. It's
okay. But if you don't think that Sobbin' Women is the best musical song, if you don't think that slaps, there's something wrong. I mean,
it slaps, but I would not argue that it was the best song ever because the storyline behind the Sabine woman is not good.
You know what? I could break out into song right now with that because that is so catchy. And I kind of hate myself for it because yes, it is very bad, but
it's not good, guys.
Good song.
Just like take our word for it. That song is not premised on the best historical discussion of anything.
Horrible. However, they made it extremely catchy. Dang them.
I know. Well, and like Adam at the beginning singing like "Bless her beautiful hide."
Bless her beautiful hide,
wherever she may be. I don't know you,
that
woman, but I'm
person over there, or this one over here. That one can't cook, so not her. This one is fat, not her either.
There's definitely a woman who's a little bit thick, and he points it out.
I know. That's why. That's why I just said that, because that's basically what the song is. Like, it's him going around and be like,
fat.
"That one didn't have braces, so I am moving on." It's like, come on.
He like talks about some woman's like cross eyes. Like,
I know.
He's just objectifying women.
That
Guys, we
woman
watched
has
this movie when we
cross
were
eyes, but
very
this is
little.
before medicine can fix that, so I am moving on.
But the barn raising scene, Laura, it's a great
Oh,
scene.
the dancing in that is amazing.
They had they had very great dancers in that movie. So
I feel like the old musicals, granted I haven't watched a ton of musical movies recently, but the old musicals I remember watching, the people could dance and sing extremely well. And I just don't know if that's a thing that we put as much focus on now in musicals, where it's either there's people that
like
dance
clout.
really well,
Yeah.
or they sing really well, and they kind of like make it work with their dancing. And I think that, back then it was like, everyone has to be able to sing this range. Everyone has to be able to dance these very complicated choreography.
Oh, he didn't see a cross-eyed woman. He said, "Lest your eyes is crossed." That's what I remember. He just didn't want a cross-eyed woman.
Yeah, he had a checklist, and he's kind of just going through town. He's like, I got 20 minutes. Let me go through town, make sure
Find a wife.
I can find a wife real quick. Got to be able to cook. Got to be able to clean.
And she's sassy as can be.
Maybe a little bit sassy. I kind of like that.
Except when she stands up to me and then I just
Only problem,
leave her.
Still got to be hot.
Yeah.
Because you know what? We're out there in the mountains, not putting up with somebody who's not hot.
I don't remember a Frank in the Bible. Well, there is no F name in the Bible, so Mama named him Frankincense because he smelled so sweet. Okay. Well, let's get into it. The Shadow Rising. So the book opens up with a prophecy, which guess what? Prophecies are going to be all over this book and then some, because Rand has become obsessed
with them,
with prophecies to try to fulfill them as fast as he can so he can die, apparently. So it says, the shadow shall rise across the world and darken every land, even to the smallest corner, and there shall be neither light nor safety. And he who shall be born of the dawn, born of the maiden, according to the prophecy, he shall stretch forth his hands to catch the shadow, and the world shall scream in the pain of salvation. That sounds like something we would read in Sunday Mass.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. Okay, so we start The Shadow Rising with Min as she enters Tar-Valon with a huge explanation of what Tar-Valon is in the White Tower. Mm-hmm. And she goes there and she says her full name for the first time ever, I'm pretty sure, and it's Elmendreda.
Elmendreda.
She has
a character, right?
Yes.
From some story.
Probably. And she has longish curly hair that rivals Perrin's beard with the amount of times it gets discussed.
Oh my gosh.
Because people can't grow hair in this series. For real.
But I feel like, is her hair that long, or are people just like making a big deal about it? Like, oh my gosh, your hair touches your ears now. Wow.
It touches her ear and it's like really curly. So like it has not grown out that much.
Yeah.
Was it like a buzz cut before? Why are people freaking out this much about hair to your ears?
Leave people alone about their hair.
I don't understand why everyone talks about hair this much, but here we are. Book 4. So many hair things. So she gets there. She sees the auras of a few Aes Sedai, and it shows that they will definitely die.
Yeah.
People like she gets to go to the Amarylline seat by giving her full name, and then this novice named Sarah takes her to see the Amarylline seat. She sees more warders. They look like they're going to be killed. She sees an Aes Sedai with a chain around her neck and one with one of those silver collars, foreshadowing, I'm sure, because we all know the Sanjan. Yeah. Then she runs into Gawain, who is doing the most by being like, "Where's my sister? Where is Egwene? Are they okay?"
It's usually first she's like, "Where is Egwene?" And then it's like, "Oh yeah, and my sister."
Yeah, because that's how all of these books are. Do you remember Rand and his like the worst was Elaine and Min, and it's like not your dad.
The worst betrayal was the one when Min and Elaine betrayed me. Like
the ones that didn't effing matter at all.
The ones you've known for 20 minutes.
Yeah. So anyway, she sees like an aura around Gawain, and it shows that he has streaks of dried blood and a grim mask. He was going to be hurt more than the blood with a deeper wound. My guess is Galad's going to be an awful man, but that's just my guess. She
Time
comes
will
in and
tell.
she comes in and sees Lanny, who is shown to have a screaming mask in her like Min's reading of her. And then she sees Suyan, and she sees that Suyan will be on the floor naked, but it looks odd because women on the floor naked isn't just odd in general. But
Yeah.
what are you gonna do? She tells Suyan all about this. And she says that like Sarah saw that Gawain recognized Min, so she says that they're like she's gonna send her away so that she can't tell anyone. Min wonders if like all of this like foretelling is about white cloaks, but Suyan is like, no, I have control over them. And then she tells her that Rand, like she tells her all about Rand, and then they find out about like him getting Kalendor, and she says she can now openly say he is the Dragon Reborn. So that's going to be exciting. Then we move over to Elida, who saw Min and recognized her. And Elida, it kind of goes into her backstory a little bit more and how she
and Maureen were friends.
Well, that's Suyan, but
it was Suyan. Are you sure it wasn't Elida?
No, Elida never said she was friends with Maureen.
For some reason, I was thinking it was like Elida that said something about.
No, so she talks about how like she has like a little bit of foretelling, and she saw that the royal line of Andor would be the key to defeating the Dark One, and so she attached herself to Morghese to keep tabs on her and have control of it.
So Elida is recalling that.
Yes, her backstory.
Suyan and Maureen were friends.
Yes, and so she's
confused that.
Yeah, she's very interested in Rand. She thinks like Maureen's off doing her own thing because of Rand, and she thinks that they have this dangerous plot with him, and she wants to like stop it. And so she starts talking to Alviar and how to stop Suyan. So they're plotting.
Okay.
Then we jump over to Dane Bornhold, who is observing Dret Bayar lecture Taran Ferry about like why white cloaks need to be there. He came to the area because he's obsessed with Perrin. And then Ordith, who we know is Padan is questioning 3 tinkerers, and now they're missing. He doesn't like Padan Fain because who would? But he can't get over like how much he hates Perrin and how much he blames him for everything.
It's kind of one of those things where every time we hear anything from Dane Bornhold, I'm just like, do you even know the whole story? Like this?
No, he doesn't know any of the story. He believed the first thing someone
so
said.
much because it was just like nobody has told you what actually happened, but you're just sure. This happened. I'm positive. I can't stand this guy. I'm gonna get revenge.
Yep.
Like, yeah.
That's what happens every time he opens his dumb mouth. Dane Bornhold, the dumbest man alive. Ugh. So then we go over to Suroth, who's like a Xian Chen person. And she's like trying to take care of all the things after Turok's debacle and the Great Hunt, because months haven't passed, I guess. Yeah. She is like scared to return to the Court of Nine Moons. Remember that name. Because she doesn't, and she said she doesn't really need to go there, and apologize to the Empress for the major debacle because the sea folk were captured. We talk about the White Tower and the Dragon Reborn. There's going to be trouble. She's upset that they no longer have captured Aes Sedai. She would love to question them about these things.
Yeah, and she wants to capture Rand.
Yes, she wants to capture Rand. Thank you. So then we cut over to Perrin and his worst relationship with Fufu, as we named
love
her.
Story ever told.
No.
Perrin and Fael, a love story for the ages.
Yeah, within the first 10 pages of like our viewing of their relationship, it's her being like, you need to be great, you're on your own. Like stop attaching yourself to Rand, stop doing this, just go get your glory, go get glory. And it's just like,
and I sent you a message the other day, and this is the take that I have for Fael for this whole book. Fael is the worst.
Money, please. Glory, please. Sitting there asking for glory. So suddenly his axe attacks him, and he like pushes Fael outside to keep her safe, and she gets mad at him for trying to protect her, because that's going to be a huge storyline in this narrative. I rename all the books. I am renaming this one, What If People Stayed Single? Like, what if they just didn't have relationships?
What if Perrin had a better love interest?
What if you just stayed single for a while and like developed yourself a little bit more?
Character with a horrible relationship and some other bad stuff that happens to him.
I get it. I know everything gets like Perrin just gets like piled on in this book.
Oh my
gosh. Hard. Oh, it's so annoying. So anyway, his axe attacks him. Fael blames him for trying to save her. And then he just automatically is like, it's Rand's fault. My
Rand
axe
did
attacked.
this.
Rand did this. Couldn't control it, but he definitely did it. Then we jump over to Matt, who's gambling, obviously.
Of
And
course.
like, there's a lot of like royals talking to him, and he's like offended by what they're talking about because they're like rude about commoners, which Matt is. Also, these people are messed up because they're like, Rand is doing awful things like telling us that we could get arrested if we do crimes, but we're lords, so we should be able to, I don't know, rape women for some reason. It's awful. And Matt is justifiably horrified by these men, but not enough, because Matt is still like, I wonder if I could go make out with someone in the kitchen right now instead of being here. And it's just like, okay, Matt, cool. He also talks about having a maiden's kiss from the Aiel woman because he asked for it. And they said no one had ever asked for that before. And Laura and I questioned if that means that he had sex with them, because it's not clear. I Googled it. It's not clear.
I feel like it's gotta be.
But it's just like they get to hold him down until he kisses them effectively enough, and then he can move on. And if he doesn't, then they like poke him with spears. This is a true story of what Robert Jordan finds his sexual awakening, I guess. I don't know. But then he's attacked by like images and the cards he's playing with. He kills them all with daggers, but the Tyrant men pretend it didn't happen pretty much. And he also blames Rand, because that's how this goes. Rand's just up in his bed dreaming of Moiraine trying to control him, or skinny dipping with Elaine and Min. Gross. And like Queen comes upon him in the dream, and it's definitely real life a Queen because she's a dream walker, and he's just like horrified that she saw him, and he's like, I hope she doesn't think I'm always like that. And it's just like, but you kind of are. So like, this is no thank you, Rand. But then he wakes up and he meets Berelain, who we saw in the last novel as the woman with hawks on her. And she tries to seduce him, but then mirror images of himself attack him. And he knows like if they kill him, one of them will like take over his entire life. He's wounded, but he channels to absorb all the different mirror images. And he thinks it's a Forsaken who like attacked. Perrin comes into Rand's room, sees Berelain. Fael overreacts when he stares at Berelain, like as he's going to Rand's room. Berelain left the room, and they like see that she's in a state of undress, and parents looking at her like, oh my god, she's in a state of undress. And Fael is just like, how effing dare you, I'm leaving.
I can't believe you glanced at someone.
Yep, that is very true. And so then she like leaves, and Perrin just goes and talks to Rand about the fact that Rand didn't cause this, because he needs to stop blaming Rand for everything.
Right.
Moiraine and Lan come in, and they say it's not a Forsaken, but a bubble of evil, showing that the Dark One's prison isn't holding, because evil gets to come out from...
Shadow is rising.
The shadow is rising. Rand nearly collapsed, and he quotes from prophecies because he's been reading on them all the time, as we said.
Which is a bit annoying.
I mean, it's interesting in the fact that, like, good for Rand for, like, being...
I mean, like, good for him to be interested, but he kind of tends to throw it in people's faces in a way where I'm like, okay, you're being annoying about this.
Yeah, I would definitely agree.
Bring this up in a better way.
Yeah, again, Robert Jordan is not depth with it, but I am like, well, Rand always liked reading, so it is like on brand with him to like do a deep dive into the prophecies and try to gain some control, because he hates Moiraine telling him everything that's going on. And so Perrin and Ruark kind of leave the room, who is the Aiel clansman, and they discuss the different prophecies and how like the Dragon Reborn, there's different stuff for that. And then the man who brings the sun, is that what they call him? I forget.
I want to say Sun Summoner, but that is definitely Shadow and Bone, so this is very wrong.
Sun Summoner. Guys, I'm not going to look this up. We're going to be here for a while. It's just going to be like the Aiel's Dragon Reborn, pretty much.
I think it's He Who Comes with the Dawn, isn't it?
He Who Comes with the Dawn. Thank you. This is why that's your job and not mine. If I forget to write it down, I don't know.
Yeah, He Who Comes with the Dawn is, I think, what it is.
Okay.
And it's kind of like a weird thing where, don't they mention at one point something like, yeah, this is basically kind of the same as our prophecies? They're like, no. Very different.
But it's different. It's special. You don't understand. And it's just like the same.
Very different prophecy.
Everyone has the same prophecy. Like, it just shows you how many like religions could be built on the same facts, but applied to a different person, but it's all the same person. Like, that's pretty much what's going on here. We also see Tom is still at the stone. He's helping Rand, like writing notes to like get subterfuge and be his little spy and play the game, as it were. He's sending out like notes to people who are against Rand. Matt comes to Tom instead of Rand because Matt never goes to this source to just have a conversation. And he's like, I want to leave, but also I can't leave. And Tom's like, yeah, you can't leave because of Aaron. And he's like, maybe wait until the next day. And Matt's like, okay, I'll wait until tomorrow. And he's like, well, he's never leaving. So, and I will say there's a huge part of this book that's all about how Aaron shapes destiny and how you have to like pretty much just go along the path you need to be on. Cause like Perrin gets to leave because he has like a justified reason for leaving at some point in this plot. But like Matt doesn't get to because Matt's just the worst. So he just has to stick with Rand. So the next day, Egwene and Nynaeve, they're questioning the 2 Aes Sedai they captured in the previous book. The girls are pretending to be Aes Sedai during this time. And Nynaeve is wearing all of Lan's favorite colors, which what was the conversation that got her to know what his favorite colors were? Like,
we'll never know. We'll never know.
You see Lan as a person who's like, I like you in blue. Like,
tell me what your favorite color is now.
Oh my God. Just really hit my microphone.
Sorry, I scared you with my Nynaeve impression.
Yes, that was terrifying. But yeah, that was just such a funny moment where I was like, how do they know? Because Egwene's like, Nynaeve's wearing all those colors. And it's like, you don't know that. You don't know. That's just a plot contrivance.
Yeah, so much of this stuff supposedly happens, but you never know.
Yeah. One of the women says that like she was the one who was stilled. She's really upset about it. She says that she remembers Landrin and like 2 other Black Aja having a conversation that they wanted to go to Tanchico and that it would be dangerous for Rand. And like Nynaeve angrily says that they should question Joya instead because Joya's the other one. Joya, quote unquote, repents her sins, which and she says that Leandrin means to break free Mazrim Taim, who is another man who can channel
the false dragons.
Yep, and set him up as the Dragon Reborn and like do evil acts in Rand's name to like undercut Rand's authority. Egwene thinks the story could be plausible, but she still believes Amiko. Nynaeve is pissed Moraine isn't helping, but also hates when Moraine comes in and like has anything to say.
Yeah, like she mentions it where she's like, why isn't Moraine here? But then it's like, if she was there, all she would do is just be like, why is Moraine here? I can't stand this.
So then Moraine and Elaine come in and Elaine is like almost in tears over Rand. And then Moraine wants them, is like tells them that she's sending the 2 Black Aja to the White Tower, and Nynaeve is like, why are you helping on this or undermining my authority?
It's like, you have no authority, but there's that.
Right. And so Moraine like says she wants Rand to go to war with Ilian, or like, because that's where Samael is, who's one of the Forsaken, and she just wants him to make a move. And Nynaeve and Egwene are horrified at the thought of Rand going to war, and Elaine knows it's inevitable. Moraine discusses a ter'angreal that is a twisted red doorway that she found in the castle, and you can go there and ask for 3 questions, and the girls are like, perfect, we can go in and use it
about the past, present, and future.
Yes. And the girls are like, oh great, like we can go in and do that. And she's like, no, because you can only ask worthwhile questions, or the questions you should be asking. If you're just going in and asking willy-nilly questions,
and you can only go in once.
Yes. So like, don't use this. And she said it could be dangerous. And Elaine admits that she's like almost crying because Barreling maybe had sex with Rand, even though they don't know.
Nobody knows.
Why is she so upset about it?
Heaven forbid we ask.
Right. Heaven forbid you have a conversation with a man that you aren't involved with to this point. Like, you're in tears over nothing. It's just the dumbest thing in the world. So
Moraine, it gets really good because Egwene and Elaine go and have a visit with Rand, and
well, also before we do that, Moraine suggests that they go to Tanchico, and then like she goes off, and Elaine recalls Min's joke about them sharing Rand, and she's like, maybe I could share Rand with Egwene and Min if we really had to. And Egwene's like, I don't want Rand anymore. Yeah. Like I'll help you get him now, because apparently that's how that works. Yeah. And then Egwene also mentions that like Morgase may be like having some alone time with Gabriel, like, and Elaine's like, not my mother. My mother doesn't have sex with anyone. Like, it's the biggest.
Definitely not that Gleeman over there.
Right? Oh God. So Egwene is like, yeah, I'm gonna take Elaine to Rand's room to like be her wingman. I don't know.
I'm gonna
this section makes
my girlfriend out here. We're gonna get her with the guy that I used to be in love with. It's happening. Come with me.
I know. But then she like goes into the, and like there's so many things where I'm like, there's so many obviously statements in this section where she's like, Rand has changed so much, I barely recognize him. And it's like, obviously, how much has changed in the first 3 books that like you think he should be the same exact man that you knew when you left Edmondsfield?
They
Seriously.
all think that though, because
I
Perrin
know.
and Matt bring it up all the time too, and it's just not fair to put that on him.
Well,
to
and
be
then,
like, he should be exactly the same as he was growing up, and he's not, and we don't like that.
well, and then they're like, let's teach you how to channel. And then they find out that channeling for him is completely different than channeling for them.
Different.
And like
he's like way better at it.
Right. And they can, or he can sense when they're channeling, but they can't sense when he's channeling. And he also like pinches their bottoms.
Not okay with that.
The power. And so then Elaine pinches his bottom, which is the beginning of Robert Jordan's obsession with butts. Let's just say it now. It's gonna come. I've heard a lot about spanking in the series, and this is the start of it, people. So small spoiler for how much spanking goes in this. He starts us off with a real easy pinch. But yeah, like Rand melts some things around them because he gets angry, and then Egwene.
But he's able to cut them off.
Yeah,
and it frustrates me because for the series, again, harping back on this, for the series to be about, oh, women are so powerful, Aes Sedai are so powerful, and it's just like, no, not near as powerful as this one man. He can take down multiple Aes Sedai.
So
come on.
Well, and then Egwene is like, hey, Rand, I'm not in love with you anymore. And Rand,
she just like, says it so bluntly. She's just like, I don't love you. And he's like, oh, thank God.
But Rand also doesn't believe her for a moment because he's like, well, women will say anything to save face. And it's just like, and then she's like, no, I seriously don't love you anymore. And Rand's like, I don't love you either. And it's like, if you didn't love her either, why did you think she was lying? Like, what in your mind said, I can think this way and she can't? So dumb.
It's not possible that women could not be attracted to him.
This is the dumbest, like,
but
90s,
we will soon
men are from
learn
Mars,
that there's only one woman who is not attracted to him. Okay, 2. I guess 2. Nynaeve is not. But everyone else
Maureen doesn't feel like she ever thinks of him as a sexual person. He's just
That's
the dragon
true. She's
reborn.
after Perrin.
Yes, exactly. Or Tom, because at one point she like goes into Tom's room and I'm like, there's weird sexual tension here and I don't
They're
like
setting
it.
that up because it's like, these two are old. They gotta be together.
Was it this book or the last book where she was like, I know who I'm gonna marry? And they're like, Maureen could want someone? It's this book. She was like talking to Nynaeve and Egwene and them, and they were like talking about like, who could we possibly marry? And Maureen's like, I know who I'm gonna marry. And it's just like, Maureen was not a sexual being before this. Right. Why are we making it this way? And if it's Tom, what a dumb plot hole.
It's because they're old.
But she's not as old as Tom. Like, Tom just can't have a woman under 40, like, or a woman over 40.
Put a number on how old Tom is either, because if you look up pictures on the internet of like fan art, people draw him like being very old and kind of like a short, like cartoonish man, similar to like Merlin in like cartoons. But it's like, the casting, he does not look that old for the TV series. I don't know. I can't figure out how old this person is.
He was supposed to be like 70 at the start of the series.
Well, that didn't.
But then
work
later
out
in the series,
if you
like,
look at who is cast
prime.
for Tom Merlin, he does not look 70.
Okay. Well, he was supposed to be like,
but
50
unless he is 70,
time.
he looks great. If he is 70.
I think they probably just like retconned him being younger to like, I don't know, let him like have sex a little bit more and longer and like
to make it make more
survive.
Sense. Oh.
Yeah, apparently. Oh God, so dumb. So anyway, Egwene's like, I don't love you anymore. And then she leaves and Elaine's like, kiss me, Rand. And Rand does. And he wonders if like, and Elaine's like, maybe Min knows who he's going to end up with. They apologize for pinching each other's bottoms. It sounds so gross. And then Gaul comes in and he announces they're High Lords, and Elaine's like, I'll leave you now. And then like she realizes Rand has a commanding presence because he's been a leader of this city for weeks. So duh. And she's excited to have 4 more days with Rand, and she won't let him, she won't have Berlain share him because this book, I mean, come on. Rand is confused on his feelings for Elaine and Min. The High Lords come in and there's like tension because like he's been reading Tom's notes and he knows that like Mylan openly resents him. he tells them that they are lowering Texas, and he hires ships from Maine to ship grain to Ilion. And they're like horrified because shouldn't they be at war with Ilion? And he just wants to be like, I don't know, a good person who feeds people.
Right.
And he settles in for a long argument with them. He can't understand why they're like not more helpful, because where he's from, people were always helpful. Yeah. Egwene runs into Matt. He's all like, I can't leave, but I want to. And then like he's really frustrated because he feels like he can understand the old tongue and he doesn't know why. So she tells him about the twisted door that's supposed to give answers.
Terangriel, which was honestly a bad decision. Like, why tell him? Because you know what he's going to do.
Such a
jump right into that thing.
I know. And he's like, I won't use it unless it's necessary. And then like 2 pages later, he uses it.
All right, I waited 10 minutes. I got to use it.
He's also like really salty because the girls broke into his room and like held him with the one power. And he like hates the fact that magic touched him because Matt.
Get over it.
And then follows with an insufferable 3 days of Rand and Elaine just making out places. Perrin and Matt going to taverns, Matt to gamble because no one else in the like area wants to gamble with him after Cards tried to kill him, and Perrin because he wants Fael out of danger.
Can I make up a comment on Elaine that I think she got tips on dating from Winston from New Girl? This is my hot take, because her strategy with Rand is Winston's strategy.
Just be there.
Be there. And so anytime Rand turns around, Elaine is there.
Just be there. Well, and also she's like, oh my gosh, he's taking when I tell him about the like officials, and he's actually like running with it and listening to me. And it's like, you were trained as a royal who was going to run a country. If he's not listening to you, that's a red flag. It's not a reason to be endeared.
Background, you're kind of diplomatic. Like, why would you think that you would not know about this?
Yep. Then Selene comes. And she's like, hey, you are Luce Theron and I am Lanfear. And look at me when I'm a little bit older, but still sexy. And she blocks him from Calendor, and he like tries to fight her off and like,
more powerful than you'll ever be.
And you will be my Luce Theron because I'm still obsessed with my ex who is you reincarnate. We're meant to be together. So Rand leaves the room, and he like, Robert Jordan, the way he describes war or battles, it always like blindsides me. We're like 3 sentences in, I'm like, oh my God, we're in a fight. It just comes out of nowhere.
It's like the fight has already happened, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, this has been going on for days. What?
Or like all of a sudden it'll be like, I smell like Perrin is supposed to smell a ton of stuff, but all of a sudden he's like, oh, I suddenly smell Trollocs. I'm in a war. And it's just like, have a little bit of like,
his sense of smell would be a little bit better than that. Like, even I can smell Trollocs 10 seconds before they attack me.
Like Rand can smell Trollocs. Like, what in the world is going on with this? Like, Robert Jordan doesn't have a great, like, all of a sudden you're just in a battle. So he like opens the door from Selene. And I do understand where like Selene was probably blocking off the noise or whatever that's going on, but still a weird choice. So he finds dead Aiel, and there are Fades and Trollocs everywhere. And he's running around seeing people fight. And Lanfear appears, and she tells him to get Calendor because the Forsaken can take it now. And then he brings down lightning and he kills all the people, like, or all the like Trollocs and Fades in like one fell swoop. And Moiraine and Lan like come up to him, and again, everyone's worried he's going to go insane. So they like hold back, and they're like, hey, are you okay? But then he has a breakdown when he finds a dead child and he tries to revive them. And Moraine's like, you cannot control the dead. Like, this is not good. Stop. So Rand stops, and he's exhausted, and Moiraine heals him, as she does quite a bit in these books.
Yeah.
But he tells her about Lanfear, and she's like, well, I mean, be careful. But she did really love Luce Theron. So like, she's probably just obsessed with you. And at one point, Selene was like, I had control of you until that like blonde milksop came in. And he's like, God, she's jealous of Elaine. And it's like, did you not know the history of what happened with Luce Theron? You've been reading a lot of books, and you still came to the dumbest conclusion.
I wonder why he has not heard of this. I had thought of that too.
He's reading
how does he not know about this? You'd think that you would look a little bit into your own history in this type of situation, but nah, not important.
You're the dragon reborn. There was a whole other dragon you should be reading about.
Nah, not important.
Whatever. So we jump over to Egwene. She's going into Talon Riad with her twisted ring. she's been reading about Terabon because she's like going to go try to explore it in the dream world. So she goes over. You learn a lot about the dream world where it's like, if you think about something, it all of a sudden changes. So like, if you think you're naked all of a sudden. And like, it's just so easy. Like, they've also discovered that they found 2 of the Terangrials from like that they got off Joya and Amiko, and both of them brought them into Tala and Riyadh. So she knows like none of these are dreamwalkers, but they all have the capability of doing it.
Right.
So she's going to go try, and she like has all these thoughts. And then she thinks of like the Aiel waste, and all of a sudden she's there and she sees a woman who recognizes her, or who like attacks her.
But she looks like a boar or something like that, doesn't she?
I thought she was just fighting a boar.
Oh, she's hunting something that looks like a boar.
Hunting something that's
I can't even read my own notes. Gosh.
You're fine. So then she's like, oh God, I need to hide from her. So she goes back to Tenchiko, and she thinks she sees like Brigitte from the old war.
Yeah.
And then like she decides to like fly around and like look for them. And then she's like, oh, flying around looking for Black Aja might not be a good idea because they could see me. So then she lands and she runs into the Aiel woman again. And
Amis.
Yes, Amis,
I think maybe.
Yeah, Amis from the 9 Valleys Sept of the Tarad Aiel. And Gwyn gives her name and says she's a Aes Sedai of the Green Aja, because these girls lie about that constantly, even though they promise to never
But they all immediately are like, we have to be of the Green Aja because that's the one that can marry.
Yep, exactly. And Amis asks her why she's flying around the city. She says she's hunting for Black Aja, and she's like, you don't know what you're doing. You need to come to the waste, and I'm going to teach you. And she says she's at Ruidian. Yes. Now, and to come to the cold rocks, and Egwene begins to fade, and she wakes up and she tells them, and Avianda's in the room, and she's like, yeah, I recognize that name. She's like, she's actually Roark's wife, and like, I'm actually friends with his other wife. And they're like, oh, this is weird. And then Maureen comes in and she's like, hey, the 2 Black Asha are dead, because this book, it's just so many plot points. And their tongues were nailed to the wall, and they're like, who did that? And she's like, I don't know.
And that's kind of how it seems too, that her tone is almost like, I don't know, somebody killed them.
Yeah,
I don't know, their tongues are on the wall. Come on, guys, we just got to clean this up.
And then she's like, hey, I got this note from Ami saying that I need to, like, she's expecting a queen, so I guess we're going to the waste with her or something. It's just like the most like random thing where it's like, I got this letter. It says that like she knows about you, and Queen's like, that happened so fast. So all of that stuff, and Queen's like, I guess I can't go with you guys to Tenchiko anymore. I'm just gonna go to the Red Waste. And they're like, okay, this is my great rendition of the facts of this plot.
But I miss you so much.
Oh God. And Elaine and Nynaeve were like, I guess we'll like go on a Seafill Breaker to get there as fast as we can. And then Rand's supposed to make some announcements in the morning. So Matt is out and about, and he hears people referring to how much they miss Logain. And he also overhears that there are white cloaks in Emmons Field, and they're searching for a dark friend with yellow eyes. So then he leaves and he runs into Perrin, who's like, yeah, I heard already. And Rand won't help, and I need to go. And Matt's like, how dare Rand not go? But also, I can't go. So good luck, Perrin. Watch after my family. That's literally what happens. He's like, how dare Rand not go protect people, but also I'm not going to protect people, so good luck. Like, what?
That's basically what it is. He's like outraged that Rand won't go, and then he's like, but yeah, I'm not going either, so Perrin, save my family.
And so then he's like, okay, well, I'm going to go find some answers for myself. And Perrin's like, okay, I'm going to go ask Loyal in the morning to help out with this. And then Verlaine comes to Perrin for no reason. And it's like,
I feel like it's just one of those things, like she kind of bumps into him. I don't know if she's still looking.
No, she came
Rand
to his room. She came into Perrin's room and was like, hey, could you tell Rand that I'm leaving? Because I've decided to leave after all this craziness.
Oh, okay.
And Perrin says, no. And she's like, you just told me no. Are you single? And then
I'm so into you now.
And then Fael walks in the room and she's like, how dare Perrin talk to a woman and without being a company? And then Verlaine leaves. Perrin tells Fael that he and Loyal are going to Emmons Field alone, and he plans to take the ways, and he hopes Moraine doesn't find out. And Fael is like pissed at him and has no recognition for the fact that he's like, hey, I have to go help because like my family is in danger. Our families are in danger. There's like going to be war and hard stuff going on that I'm dealing with. Can you please respect my like anything about this conversation? And she's just like, no, screw you, and runs out the door because that's pretty.
Yeah, and then she goes and confronts Berlane.
In the dumbest,
because
like,
well, Perrin first, he says something like, well, I'm interested in her, just to like get Fael off his back.
I forgot.
And so
about
then
that
it
part.
makes her so mad. And so she leaves and she confronts her, and here's our Hawk and Falcon fighting situation. And she's just like, oh, you better stay away from him. He isn't mine.
But
I
also
blamed him. And then
it's
Berlin's like, because you want him, I'm never giving up. Ever.
Well, this is like the weird thing about Robert Jordan, where he's like, okay, I want Fael to be a strong young woman. So as she runs and does this really toxic girlfriend thing, I'm going to tell you how frustrated she is that Perrin has led her to do this. And it's just like, no, that's not how it works.
No.
Like, if you're going to have a strong woman, just be like, I wish I could run after her. That's something. But like just saying like, oh God, I hate myself for what I'm about to do. Stay away from my man. Like, no, you don't get credit for that. So anyway.
And then she kind of like, at the end, she's like, he will be mine.
Yes.
It's like, yeah, because you always get your way, Fael.
Well, and then she's like, and then at one point, Berylane said something like, under an Ogier's oath, I will never give up. And she's like, oh yeah, Ogier can't break their oath. I'm going to go talk to Loyal. So the next day, like Perrin goes into Loyal's room and he's like, hey, can you take me through the ways? I'm really worried about my family. And Loyal's like, of course, Perrin. And then Fael like pokes her head up like an asshole. And it's like, yeah, Loyal is such a great hero. And also he promised to take me in the ways first before anyone else. And you can only come in with me if you apologize to me. Because, you know, adding strings to a man who's going to go fight a war is like a really healthy decision and not self-centered or self-serving or just really, really immature. Like it's just so frustrating.
Being a horrible person.
Yeah, she was just like an awful person. So it was terrible. And so, yeah. And Perrin like said that Rand kind of wished him luck, you know, and he runs into Gowl, who's an Aielman, and he like relates that Rand told him Perrin was going to the Two Rivers and that would be dangerous and Gowl should accompany him. Like Perrin is really grateful because Rand maybe can't go with them because he has bigger things going on, but he at least like tried. So he's gonna go off, and like Perrin says he won't apologize to Fael because he shouldn't really have to.
Why should he have to apologize?
Apparently for like saying he liked another woman, pretty much. And like I get that. Maybe you should apologize for that, but it's like apologize or follow me like a dog. And it's just like, that's not how healthy relationships work.
Well, she kind of wants both though. She's like, apologize and follow me like a dog.
Yeah, and that's fair too.
I control you. That's how our relationship works. You have to do everything I say.
Yep, exactly. So then Matt immediately goes down to the twisted door. He steps through.
10 minutes are up that he said he would not go through there.
Yep. He steps through. He sees like a snake-like man who brings him to these people, and like I don't know. It's just very weird. And so he like comes before these people. He asks them questions.
He thought he had thought them out, but did you think that these were well thought out at all?
No, these were terrible questions.
He just spits them out and he's like, why? Tell me. It's like, you're an idiot.
he just like gets angry and then he like asks random ass questions. Like it's just, there's no rhyme or reason to it. Yeah, one of his last question is, why should I?
I know.
It's not a well thought out question, but he finds out that he should go to Meridian, and he finds out, or but he's like, why should I? It's like, well, because you would die. And it says you will have sidestepped the threat of fate, let your fate to drift on the winds of time, and you will be killed by those who do not want that fate fulfilled. And then he finds out that he is going to marry the daughter of the 9 moons, and then he's going to die and live again and live once more, a part of what was, to give up half of the light of the world to save the world. Go to
probably
Brilliant,
like one of the Aiel.
Right. There. Son of battles, tricksters, go gambler, go. No, the daughter of the 9 moons. Remember at the beginning of the book, she said she didn't want to go to the 9 moons for the Empress. So it's like San Chen stuff.
Okay. I was assuming it was like some kind of Aiel.
Well, I was kind of hoping for that, but I don't think we're going to get that plot twist.
Okay, never mind.
And then all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, you're in danger. And they like pick him up and throw him outside of the door. And he's like, I want to go back in and get better answers because he can't listen to directions. And then it just becomes a normal door. And then all of a sudden Rand pops out And he's like, hey, Matt, did you go through? And Matt's like, yeah, but they're liars. And he's like, no, they were. And then all of a sudden,
He's so in denial.
I know. It's just like Matt. Yeah. Then Moraine pops out. She's like, what are you guys doing here? And she was like, were you both in there at the same time? That's so dangerous. Like, you guys are Taveran. Like, you could have brought down the entire world. And yeah. And so Matt asks if they will really let the White Cloak have Evans field. And Rand's like, Perrin will do what he has to do. Just trust him, because Matt has apparently just not grown as a person very much. Can't believe you're not going, but I'm not going either. So then like Elaine, they're all packing as they go to leave. And like, this is the dumbest thing where she's like, I can't believe Rand didn't ask me to stay. And the girls are like, I can't believe he didn't ask you to stay either, even though you couldn't have stayed anyways. And she like writes him a love letter that's supposed to be like very, one second. That's supposed to be very like, I love you. You know, she's having open and honest communication. And then she gets mad and she's like, I'm going to write him a different letter that says the complete opposite of what I just wrote him, to prove that I don't need him as much as he doesn't need me. And it's just like, wow, this is healthy. And then Lan crashes in and he's like, Nynaeve, you were pretending like you were going back to Tar Valon. And now I find out that you're going to Tanchico, which is incredibly dangerous. And she's like, I never said where I was going. And it's just like, well, great. So their communication is obviously on the floor again. And he does have very sweet things to say that like, I love you. If you die, I will not survive you long. And he kind of hints that he would disobey his like word and leave Moraine behind if she like asked him to. And she's just like, no, I'm not going to do that.
That's not how we're doing this.
Yes. Which I actually appreciated.
Yeah. And you know what? It's one of those things too, that even if she hates Moraine, she's still like, no, we're respecting this oath. Even if I can't stand this person that you're bonded to, you're not going to break this oath.
Well, and she also recognizes that it's like, if he came to me under these terms, he would forever have this horrible guilt. Yeah. And I'm not going to make him do that. And then Egwene says Avienda has everything ready for the two of them. They're going to go to Viridian. They tearfully hug each other goodbye. And like, yeah, Elaine writes,
because they're BFFs with Avienda now.
Yes, they are. To the point where like Avienda is like, I hate Rand because he didn't tell Elaine to stay.
So invested in this.
So invested in a relationship. She has no idea what's going on. So then Tom is like in his room. He's like planning on just helping Rand, and Moraine comes in and he's like, wow, she's really hot.
She's like, wow, we're both old. We should.
Are you thinking? Are you getting the same vibe? I do know who I'm going to marry. Spanking? Is it you? Do you like? Everybody in this book likes spanking Laura. Everybody.
Do you like spanking? Maybe bring it up later.
And he was like very like, oh, I'm not doing anything around here. And she's like, you were once called the Gray Fox in the court, and like you were hugely involved in Caemlyn. And she was like, weren't you a lover for Morghese while Terengale died? And like, fortunate enough, Terengale had plotted her death to make himself the first king of Andor. And he's just like, interesting. Nudge, nudge, nudge.
No idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. And then he says that he knows that Moraine was Terengale's youngest half sister and King Lamon's niece. And then he's like, what do you want? And she's like, I want you to go with Elaine and Nynaeve. And she's like, he will, survive to see them once again. And he just needs to go off. And he's like, and then she like mentions about like his gentle nephew and like how that's probably why he's so attached to Rand. And he's like, get out. And she does. Then we come back to Min, who still hates wearing dresses. She's pretending to hide from suitors. Gawain and Galad come talk to her. And Gawain's like, look at this stupid book my brother's reading. And Galad's like, I'm reading Nazi propaganda. I mean, that's what's happening.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't expect that.
Okay,
you said it so fast.
I'm sorry, but that's really what's happening. I mean, he technically says, I'm reading something written by a white cloak, but let's face it. Call a fascist, and let's just move on. Min's like, oh, that doesn't look right. And then she sees Logain and she knows he has a flaring halo around his head and there are shouts of glory. And she's like, gotta go tell the Amarylline Sea immediately. And so Godwin's like, I'll walk you. And Galad's like, I'll come too. And she's like, oh, don't bother yourself with little old me. And then they like leave. And Godwin's like, I've heard notes about a false dragon. And she's like, but what if it isn't a false dragon? And he's like, no, it is. So he drops her off. She talks to Suyin and she's like, hey, I just saw this about Logain. And she's like, stop just coming up here for everything willy-nilly. And then she's like, I'll just add it to other worries. There's starvation in Kyrian. There's Aes Sedai missing. Trolloc raids are in the borderlands. Someone calling himself the prophet is stirring up riots. There's war. And like one piece of good news is the Blight has retreated for 2 miles, but that's about it. And then Min is like, okay, well, can I leave? And she's like, no, you can't. You have to stay here. And she's like, I'm not being very helpful. And she's like, no, you're being very helpful. You're catching like burglars in the White Tower. So poor Min is being stuck on like the dumbest issues ever.
Right.
And then a novice comes in and says that there are 2 pigeons. The first is to say that Mesrim Tame has escaped and 2 Aes Sedai were killed. It happened at a village in Den Hur. And
then the other letter was that Moraine said that Rand has taken Kalendor.
Yes. So yeah, the second letter is from Moraine. She says the Stone of Tyr has fallen and Rand has taken Kalendor. Sion orders the meeting of the hall immediately so she can make the announcement that there is a dragon reborn. We cut over to the novice who led Min up, Sarah, and she's working on a farm. And then Aes Sedai approaches her and asks about Min. She doesn't remember anything other than like Gawain, and this is an insufficient answer.
Min speaking to Gawain. That's all I know.
Min, and then they kill Sarah for like no reason. So
that's all you know.
That's all you know. She's dead. And apparently, I looked at the notes. We never find out which Aes Sedai did that. So that's a stunning little note.
Interessante.
Perrin is leaving with the Aiel Gal. He finds out Fael has been running her mouth about the trip to anyone who will listen, where it's like, we're going to 2 rivers. We're going to 2 rivers. We're going to go find glory.
And she has a weird following. I don't understand why people want to follow her, but some of these Aiel women are like, we will follow you anywhere.
Fain and Chad are like, we're going to come too. And like, yeah, I do think that a lot of the horse names in this book have like a good special meaning because like Perrin has Stepper, which I like. It's almost like a wolf name. Fael has her own horse called Swallow, and she is supposed to be, you know, a falcon. So falcons and swallow, you know, and so they're going to leave the stone, and Perrin can feel like himself ripping away from Tabarin, but he overcomes it. They gallop east until they're in the countryside. The Aiel catch up. They go to the Waygate. Loyal is angry because like it's out in a pasture. He opens the Waygate and Perrin goes first. And Fael is like super angry about this and like screams at him.
No, he's showing me you're not part of our group. You can follow us, but you are not part of our group. You're over there. We're over here. You can follow us, but you're not part of our group. And it's like, okay, he's 5 feet away. Quit being a baby.
Also, like the Waygates are incredibly dangerous. Maybe get over yourself so that he can stay protected and not.
I love you, but I hope you die.
If it means winning this argument, you're gonna die. That's gonna be what's gonna happen. And so then Elaine and Nynaeve are going to the docks. They go on a like ship with a wave dancer, and they meet Coin and Jorin. Jorin is a wind finder. Coin like runs the ship. They go below and they discuss like a gift of passage. And during this time, like anytime Nynaeve gets with a person who's a little bit more reasonable than her and there's no one else in the room to like, everyone gets annoyed with her because Elaine's like, hope she can keep quiet. It's just like,
I know
Elaine...
she mentions something about like, I know you can't keep your emotions in check, but could you? And just, that made me laugh so much.
It's such a funny thing because like in the last book, she slaps Egwene for like having like, hey, could you chill? And it's just like slap. And in this book, she's like, hey, could you chill? Like just a little bit because I asked nicely.
I know you can't, but could you?
I know. So they go and they like discuss the fact that the Dragon Reborn has come. And so like that's the only reason that they're kind of excited for there's also a huge earthquake and they all blame it on Rand reading Elaine's dumb letters because that matters.
Which doesn't make sense. But yeah.
But anyway, they agree to take them to Tanjiko, and then Tom and Julian from the last book who like sold them out appear and they're like, hey, we're coming with if you let us. And they're like, who sent you? And Tom is like, well, I was just told to come along. And then Julian is like, Lan sent me. And Nynaeve was like, but cute. I hate all men, but
Fine.
They like cast off on the wave dancer. There's a weird thing where like women go without a shirt and like all the people are horrified, and Elaine's always like, remember it's a different custom. But they end up going. Nynaeve goes below deck because of her horrible like seasickness. The women remove all their blouses. Julian can't like look at them. Elaine runs into Tom and she's like, I know him from somewhere. And then she's like, are you writing an epic fantasy about the Dragon Reborn? And Tom's like, no, because it'll change anyway. And he cites the story of Arthur Hawkwing defeating 100 men in duel. Yeah.
How could I not get that right?
And then like Elaine gets them to change course, and Tom is like, or she tells them like, oh, they were going to a different port, but we got them to change their minds. And Tom is like, I'm impressed. And it's like, why? Like,
I remember those mustaches.
I wish I could tug on his mustache. The weirdest plot line ever.
Let me tug them a little bit.
Well, and then she sees Joran studying the sky, and like Elaine has the best power for seeing when women embrace Sidar, and she sees that Joran can manipulate huge flows of air and water, and like they don't tell Aes Sedai because they don't want them to take their sea folk away. They like send some, but they kind of keep it a huge secret. And she's like, hey, could you teach me? I promised to keep it a secret. And then she almost tells Egwene immediately, and she's like, I can't believe I did that. These are all true stories. We cut back to a rare moment of Moraine's point of view. She's with Egwene in the Heart of the Stone. She has like irritated Lance missing, and you can actually tell she's a little bit possessive of him. And she's like, I'm not going to give him Nynaeve until I die. And it's like, well, that's a little dramatic, but okay.
Which is weird though, because previously she was kind of just like, I may die. And then you're with someone else.
Yeah, it's fair. And then she like sees one of the ladies in the court and she's like, oh, she's much more dangerous. Rand should listen to me more. That's a lot of her point of view. Rand should listen to me more. She also thinks like the girls going to Tanchico is a waste of time, but she's like, at least they're gone. And then she's like,
I wish she's out of my hair.
You can definitely tell she does not give two craps about the women in her life.
I know.
Yeah, there's a little bit of tunnel vision with Moraine. She only wants like her and her alone to influence Rand. Yeah.
It's like her way or the highway. And she's kind of just like, everyone get out of my way. This has to happen.
And then she's like, oh, I see Matt Good. Where is Perrin? And then Rand comes in and he's like, hey guys, you all are going off to Kyrian to like help with their civil war. And like, we're sending grain. And this woman who like is in charge of the hold has to go with them so like he can get rid of her pretty much. And she's basically like, oh good. And then like her sick husband is being taken care of by another high lady, and that's like a huge slap on the face. And Maureen's like, I mean, what he's doing isn't dumb, but it's also not smart either. And then he sends off like the high lords who are, you know, attempting to get away from Rand, and you know, all that stuff. And then he says like, they're like, okay, so when are we writing? And he's like, oh, you're writing, I'm not writing. And they're all horrified. And then he's like, don't worry. And then he thrusts Kalendor into the floor, the Heart of Stone, and the whole Stone of Tear rings and shakes. And he's like, look after this for me, why don't you? Then he leaves. And Moraine is like, why wouldn't you take that with you? And he's like, well, I'm just fulfilling a prophecy. And she's like, you have to stop believing you could just fulfill prophecies because you decided to.
Right.
And she's like, someone can come take that. And he's like, oh yeah, because I was an idiot and didn't make sure no one could take it out, like Sword in the Stone style. But
I was going to say, it's the sword in the stone.
It's the sword in the stone. So then they all go off, and Matt's like, I guess I have to come with you guys. And again, I think the horse's name have a lot to say. So like Egwene's horse is Mist, Moraine Aldib. Matt has a horse named Pips because and Rand named his horse Jadin, which means true finder in the old tongue, from like one of his favorite stories, which was really sweet. Because
I thought that was sweet.
He's like, I hope Egwene doesn't remember, because like I know I'm supposed to be this adult person, but like I still have feelings and I care. So then he's like, we're gonna travel across a portal stone, and Maureen is like, that's so dumb. The last time you did that, it was terribly dangerous. And he was like, okay, but I also bought a Sarah and Griel to help me. And then
it's like a big group for him to transport.
So he like can't quite figure out the two symbols. And then Matt's like, we'll flip a coin. And he does it. And Rand was like, did you pick this one? And he's like, yeah. And then Rand's like, okay, I guess I chose the right one. And it's like, why did we just have this plot?
Oh my gosh.
To show that Matt's lucky, I guess. Okay. And so then he brings out his sangreal or angreal, and he
Angreal.
travels across the land until they reach Tyr. They reach the blight. Sorry, no, not the blight. What's it called? The land of
waste.
The waste. They travel and they reach the waste. And then he tells, and like Moiraine heals him, and he's like, make sure you have my consent next time. Because he like gets mad at her.
But then like later he's like, I wish she would have healed me.
Right. So then they all like travel across with their Aiel, and they come upon like a huge camp where there are 3 camps in all, a large camp of Shido, a smaller camp of the Tardad, and then the wise ones. 4 wise ones, a mace among them, where like Egwene sees her and is immediately like, I need to talk to her. I need to talk to her right now. And I need to ask her about dreams. And if I don't ask her about dreams right now, then I'm going to forget. And it's just like, wait a minute. she remembers you. She sent a note about you. It'll come.
It's fine.
And then you find out that Evianda can channel, and that she was supposed to become a wise one, and then she ran away. And they're like, you're being such a baby. Just do what you're supposed to be doing. And then 2 other men appear. Rourke greets Huron, who's chief of the Jindo set. The other man is Culloden of the Shido. He says the clan chief, Suladric, is dead, and Culloden's brother, Moradin, is now Ruidian, now in Ruidian. So Moradin is important because they freak out when he doesn't come out before Rand. Rand approaches the wise ones, and he asks permissions to enter Ruidian. And he's like, because my mother was an Aiel, and Egwene is like, what? His mother wasn't Kyrie? And then the woman's like, your mom was an Aiel, your father was an Aiel. And then Matt is also like, can I go into Ruidian? And Couladin like freaks out, and he's like, he is not allowed. And then the wise ones are like, yeah, he can go. So because it's time for change. And then they call Lan, Ian, Elian. Yeah. And so Rand and Matt leave all their weapons, and they go into the heart of the city, to like this fog bank. And Egwene like has to go up to Amise, and Amise is like, stop talking to me right now. And then she like tells Lan to leave. Moiraine talks to them about the fact that they can kind of see into the future, and like know what's going to come. And then one of them accidentally lets it slip that Moiraine has to go into Ruidian as well. And like, oh, and Avienda like went in before. She had to get completely naked because men get to wear clothes, but women don't in this storyline.
Well,
which is,
she's kind of going through the 3 doorways.
Oh, right. You're right.
Like the Aes Sedai do.
Yes, they have to go through 3 rings. You are right. So they do have to be naked. But again,
so
men
it's
don't
slightly
have to be naked
different, but it's basically the same. But only women have to be naked because
only women have to be naked.
It's possible they may get spanked or something when they go through.
Exactly. And so Moiraine gets naked and runs down to Ruidian. But before she does, she's like, hey, like, so I have to go through the rings. And they're like, well, now we just changed the course of the events because we told you about it. So it's just very stupid.
Yeah.
And so then Egwene is like, hey, what about me? What about me? And they're like, okay, we'll sit down, we'll teach you, but you can't go into Tara and Riald. So Matt and Rand are going into Ruidian. They're like sunburnt, they're dehydrated. Matt swears he sees naked Avienda. They talk about, and then he's like, hey, like when the snake people told you to come here, like what'd they say? And Rand's like, they didn't tell me to come here. I'm doing this on my own. And Matt's like, cool, me too. They walk by this fountain, and Rand is like, ooh, I can sense water. And he just brings water, and he's like, they didn't say that I couldn't make water while I'm in here. They just said I couldn't bring it with me. Loophole.
What a loophole.
Right? I know. It's just supposed to show like Rand can still break the rules when he's around Matt guys, because Matt. Then they see the tree of life. Like Rand is like, I could see how people could get lost here forever. And so then he like goes into
well, and beneath the tree there's like these statues of a man and a woman holding a spear.
Yes. And then Rand enters the glass columns while Matt waits, and then Matt like walks around and he sees another twisted red doorway, and he thinks it's the same exact thing as the time before because Matt is an idiot. So he goes in, finds himself in a different place in like an animal's lair, and they're fox people, and they approach and asks if he abides by the treaties, no irons, what he was asked before, because he was asked at the one before. And he's like, yeah, totally, I don't have anything on me.
Yeah.
And so then Matt like goes up to them. He's like, who's the daughter of 9 moons and dying and living again? And they're like, no, I'm not. That you're not. What do you want? They keep asking, what do we? And he's not smart enough to understand what they're like. What do you want? That he has to ask for something. And then he wants so he's like, I want the holes in my memory filled, in like as a rant. Like he didn't actually ask because he was smart. And they're just like, done. And then Matt like is confused and still doesn't understand what's going on. And he continues to talk about what he wants. He says he wants to be free of the Aes Sedai and the One Power, and he wants to be back in Viridian. And they reply, done. Then they're like, hey, you didn't negotiate what you wanted for a price, you idiot. And then darkness encloses and Matt can't breathe. So then it cuts over and Rand goes in and he sees pretty much like the huge history of the Aiel. And he like kind of lives it and experiences it himself. He becomes like Rodic, and he finds out that there are 2 Aiel, the Aiel and the Gen Aiel. And Rodic thinks it's appropriate that they will cross the dragon wall because their secret name is the People of the Dragon. He realizes that he was with the Aiel before they came to the Aiel Waste. He is then Giardam. His father, Lewin, leads one of the Sept of the Aiel who accompanied the Gen. Several Gen ask him to help, so he takes them to Lewin. One of them, Morin, explains that they traded with some villagers, but the villagers came back in the night, robbed them, and kidnapped some of them, including Morin's daughter, Kieran. Lewin promises to bring them back. He tells them that they can stay at his tents, but they must help defend if they do. Only one man goes back to the Gen wagons. Morin takes a spear along with the men. Giardam begins to teach her how to use it. Morin tells him she saw his face in a dream. He is Lewin. Lewin and his friends kind of like go to protect the women, and like they approach the camp, but the men attack, and then the boys kill the 4 men, and they like save the girls who have like undergone huge trauma, and then they come back, but because they killed men, they are no longer Deshan, and they are strangers, and they're no longer welcome in the wagons of the Aiel. And Lewin shouts, I am still Aiel. And so then Rand is Adan, a Dashane. Adan holds Miagran and Lewin as he watches bandits carry off his daughter, Rhea. They killed his wife and his son. His other children are dead too. There are several, like he comes upon several empty wagons of the items Aes Sedai gave the Aiel to safeguard, and like they lost them. Adan sees the twisted red doorway fall to the ground. There are many Korra cuttings as well as they leave. Sulwin says he will keep the way of the leaf, but Adan shouts that they are lost. Adan is grateful that the children's mother, Sarah Lynn, is still alive. Rand is confused about like Aiel following the way of the leaf because he doesn't understand what's going on, even though
because it's a tinker thing.
Yeah, it's a tinker thing, which like I kind of picked up on that like tinkers were probably like a brand of Aiel because they also like hold no weapons and like all that stuff. But apparently this is also something that happens in the book a lot, where we know something but we're watching someone else discover it, and like after you discover it for like the 5th time, you're like, yeah, I already know this. So
I
get it. That happens a lot with like Elaine being like, how do I know Tom? And it's like, we all know how she knows Tom. We all know. Why are we having this storyline where we have to watch
mustache
tug on his mustache a million effing times when we know how she knows Tom? It's the dumbest thing. So that's my rant. And then Rand is Janai. Janai looks west where the city of Kamel used to be. It is now a sea. He wishes his wife Elnora were still alive to guide him with his dreams. His son Willem left when he began to channel, and his daughter Isolde died of an illness because there were no Aes Sedai to heal her. The last Aes Sedai he encountered told him that Ishmael was still free. He and his son Adon meet a band of Ogier. They cannot find the steading, and they are suffering from longing. They say it is bad to the north. The Sea of Drens is to the south. Janai has a heart attack. As he dies, he tells Adon to lead the Aiel south. Rand is still confused about how these people can be Aiel. Beside him, and then he sees like Muradin in this right now, and Muradin is like howling as he experiences this, like he's experiencing similar things to Rand, but he's not taking it well. So then Rand is Janai again. He's 63 in his prime. I guess you can be in your prime in your 60s. Apparently,
how
that's
old
why
do people live is what I'm wondering.
I don't know, because they talk about how like Ogier is like 99 is so old, but if you have a man in his prime at age 63,
But they say the 99 is like young for an Ogier because
right?
loyal is
But they say it's old for human.
yeah. So I'm confused if like 63 is your prime. I don't know.
I don't know. But he enters the Hall of Servants. He goes into a room where Aes Sedai are arguing. There's a crystal sword and the dragon banner on the table. The Aes Sedai have a plan based on Dandrin's foretelling. They're waiting for someone, and the young channelers who are not yet strongly affected by the taint, they'll have a task for Someshta, who is one of the Aes Sedai. They must hurry because there are people headed towards like different areas. There was a destroyed city. So Linda tells Janai he must complete his task to leave the Aiel and take the items of the One Power to find a place for safety. Janai is embarrassed that his father, Coman, gave up the way of the leaf. He goes to the Wagoners where thousands of his people are ready to leave. There are no longer jokars, jumpers, hovlers, or show wings for transportation. His wife, Elnora, has their children in their wagon. They begin to search for their place of safety. Like Rand is still reeling from all this, and then Muradin claws at his face, and Rand takes another step forward. He's Coman, a boy of 16. He and the other Aiel are preparing to sing with the Ogier. There are soldiers nearby wearing fancloth capes. He is not sure. He believes old Cham's story of a time of no war, no fades or trollocs. He also claims he served, or Cham also claims he served Lanfear herself. So Meshcha arrives and they sing health to the field. Afterwards, one of the Ogier, Tamada, talks to a soldier. The soldier gives them news that Luce Theron led a strike on Shyle Ghul. The Boar had, and then like the Forsaken were sealed away, and they're trapped and the war is over. As Coman walks away, a townsman named Toma strikes him, saying they will root out all this that serve the Forsaken. He runs back to his inn where he finds out that Charn has been hanged because he had served with Lanfear herself. Rand continues on. Rand is Cham. He is near the Colum Don, and the streets are lined with chora trees. He just turned 25. He plans to take one of the show wings to Majin to accept Nala's proposal of marriage. That will mean transferring his service to Zarel Sedai, but Mirren already gave approval. A man named John wearing a stylish fancloth cape runs into him and immediately apologizes when he sees that Cham is Aiel, or Charn. I've been saying Cham, but that's the way I'm reading this. Apologies. Charn is excited today because it is the day of Myrian. Myrian told him that she and Betamon would try the new source of the One Power. Suddenly, the Sharam, a 1,000-foot white sphere floating above the Kalam Dan, explodes in black fire. Everyone runs away screaming. Rand is back at the edge of the glass columns. Muradin is gone. He realizes he saw the formation of the hole in the Dark One's prison. And then all of a sudden he sees Mat hanging by his neck from Abin Desoro, which is the Tree of Life, and runs and takes him down. Matt's not breathing, but Rand resuscitates him in a really sweet, like, he was talking about like, I can't use the One Power because I saw what it did last time, but I can't lose my friend. So like, I'm going to use like human methods to revive him. And I thought that was great. And then Matt's like, I went through a twisted red doorway and I asked for questions, but they didn't tell me anything. And he now
basically asked to die. And then they gave me what I wanted.
And then Matt says that he now has a fox head medallion and then this like weird blade, like dagger thing, right?
The
Ashandri
or something.
Yeah, Ashandri. And then he reads the label in Old Tongue and it says, thus is our treaty written, thus is the agreement made. Thought is the hour of time, memory never fades. What was asked given, the price is paid. And Rand is like,
escape.
Oh, it's a spear.
Sun comes up the hill.
It's a spear, and Rand's like, I can't read that. So yeah, and then they like dust attacks them and they get to the fog bank and it is dawn and they're like, oh, we've been here all night. You find out they've been there for 7 days, but
he's the one who comes with the dawn,
right?
But the visions were all of like Rand's ancestors, so he was back in time.
But we won't, that's all stuff that's coming out next week, but we will end with Perrin is back in the ways. They talk about like the changes in the place. Gaul says that Ruark, his clan chief, Jaren and the wise ones were uneasy when they sent the Aiel in search of he who came with the dawn. Kalinda, the wise one of the hot springs hold, tells him he thinks too much, and like they kind of just chatting. Perrin finds himself in a wolf dream where he sees like Rand amongst storm.
He doesn't see any wolves though.
Yeah, no, it's just like he goes into the dream world like of the wolves pretty much. And he kind of sees like Rand kind of being crazy, and then a strange figure on the dragon banner, head and eyes watching Rand. There's no telling of whether he knew if he was being watched. He sees Nynaeve and Elaine stalk cautiously through a demented landscape of twisted shadow buildings, hunting some dangerous beast. He sees Matt standing at the road, forked ahead of him. He flips a coin, starts down one branch, and suddenly is wearing a wide brim hat and walking with a staff bearing a short sword blade, so a spear. That's just a spear. And then he sees a queen and a woman with long white hair staring at him in surprise. And then the White Tower crumbled stone by stone. And it's like, yeah, you see them looking at you with surprise. They didn't expect you to be here. He wishes he could talk to Elias. He calls for Hopper, but the wolf does not come. He discovers like he can travel wide distances, even though we already knew that only a queen could do that. And then all of a sudden he sees a man, and he sees him and flees, and he like tries to run and find him. He finds Hopper, and Hopper calls the man a slayer and says like, don't go. And like the man disappeared into a building, and he's like, don't go in that building. Or a woman comes in, and Perrin says that he knows that she looks familiar. She is surprised that he can talk to Hopper, but remembers it from legends. She tells him that they're at the Tower of Genji, and it's a doorway to the realms of Elfin and Aelfin. The game of snakes and foxes is a remembrance of dealings with them, which is a game that he played as a child, because it's a game that you can only win by breaking the rules. She tells him that the Slayer is not old, but his evil is ancient. She then says she is not supposed to be talking to him at all. It is against the prescripts. She asks if he is Tavern. He sees another shadow of a man with two swords across his back, but when he turns, the man is gone. The woman is gone too. He asks Hopper about her, but Hopper did not see her.
Right.
Perrin tells Hopper that he was looking for wolves in the Two Rivers. Hopper tells him that they are all dead and gone because of the Slayer. They bid each other farewell. And this is and I skipped a part. I apologize. I skipped a huge part, because when they're in the ways, this is after they first got out of the ways. And at one point, he takes a little bit longer to get through the ways, and Fael is furious at him, and she slaps him twice. And then he spanks her as a punishment. This is not a healthy relationship, people.
Yeah, I was hoping you would get back to that, because it cannot be overlooked.
It cannot be overlooked. It's awful. Like, that scene is horrifying. The way she is abusive towards him, and I could see him stopping her, but him returning the abuse is just not appropriate. Spanking her, that's inappropriate.
Thank you.
And it kind of it didn't objectively say she was spanked, because I remember texting you and being like, was she just spanked? Because it talks about
that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, no, but it definitely it says in the recap that he paddles her.
Okay, so
he spanks her, and she gets he's like, oh, I'm gonna have to pay for that later. And it's just okay, if you guys are having physical altercations where then you fear what will happen to you afterwards, you should not be in that relationship. Get out now. It is abusive and wrong. So we learned how Perrin's toxic. He has toxic relationships. Again, every character in here is toxic, so that is why he is toxic. Well, anyway, they keep going. Loyal, again, they find the way gate. They go through it, and then they're Perrin's all of a sudden I smell something a little funny. I smell something a little funny. Oh my God, it's Trollocs. And so then they attack them, but then Loyal is able to get the leave outside the wave gate, so they can't escape. And they heard the black wind as they were going through. And as soon as they get out, Perrin saw a pair of hawks above the valley. One is killed by the arrow, which was killed by the Slayer. Again, apologies for missing that part. And the other is attacked and killed by ravens, which we all know are Dark Friends' friends. So anyway, after he sees the Slayer, they they travel through the mountains of mist, the sandhills, and they reach and Perrin talks about being excited to see his family, because he has a father and a mother, two sisters, and a baby, and a little baby brother who's oh, he's 9. I guess he won't want to be called a baby anymore. And then he has an uncle and aunt, their children, and they all live on this huge farm. He really got to see them because he was an apprentice of Master Luhan. Yeah. He's worried about the Slayer being around. They travel to Tamal Thor's farm. They see it's burned down. Bane, Shad, and Gull search thoroughly. They find nothing. Perrin can barely restrain himself because he's so scared. They camp. He wants to go to his farm. They have to camp, but he decides to go to the Wine Spring Inn, and he kind of tries to get away from Fael and all of them. He and Gull go by themselves, and we all know how that works out. But Bran Alvear and Marin are in the common room. They're like surprised by seeing him. They ask about Nynaeve or Egwene, and he's like, well, she's going to become an Aes Sedai. And they're like, yeah, we already kind of knew about that.
She's been writing us letters.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, I didn't write letters.
That to me was just a very like boy versus girl situation where I think that maybe this is not to like put everyone all in one basket, but I remember boys of my age probably at that time would not have been like, oh, I'm going to write a letter to my mom and dad to let them know how I'm doing.
Right. Agreed. No, I fully agree. But then he's like, I came to turn myself over to the White Cloaks because I want my family safe. And he finds out a ton of things like who the new wisdom is, like Sen Bui is kind of like, they're all going crazy for the White Cloaks. And they said that they saw like, because the White Cloaks are saving them from Trollocs. They're obsessed with this guy named Lord Luke, who is a hunter of the Horn. And then like Fael comes bursting in because she's like, you're not turning yourself in. I can't believe you thought you'd do that, you know? Yeah, because she has a lot of respect for his thoughts and decisions. But yeah, there are Trollocs everywhere. They find out that like Tam Thor and Abel Cawthon are in hiding in the Westwood because the White Cloaks like took in Master Luhan, his wife, their children, like the Cawthons, all that stuff. And then they tell him that Perrin's family is dead via Trollocs.
All of them.
All of them.
Distant relatives, like anybody that's remotely related to him, gone.
And then like he goes into shock and he can't get it, like he can't grieve them until Fael takes him into her chest because she's his mommy now. And
this is what I hated, where it was like they set this up as such a horrible relationship. And then they were like, you know what? We're going to kill off everyone. So all he has is her.
Guys, my roommate just came out. I feel like this needs to be said on the pod. And all she does not listen to the plot portions of this. So all she heard was she's his mommy now. Perfectly out of context. So yeah, it's almost like he lost his entire family. So now he just has to imprint on this girl, not to use a Twilight term for the wolf boy. But
only Fael.
Only Fael and no one else. And now he must marry her, apparently. Yeah. But it's the worst. And I hate it so much. But that is the end of chapter 29.
We end on a very bleak note.
Guys,
Perrin only has Fael.
Only has Fael, a woman who we hate.
A woman who is the worst.
She's the worst. Glory, please. That's just, yeah. Instead of money, please.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the first half of the book. I'm glad we started breaking these up. Could you imagine getting into like
this is halfway.
This is halfway, guys. This is why we're splitting them up into two. This is already still talking a lot. I'm sure we'll cut out some stuff. But yeah, we're happy we got through this. We will be joined next week to come to the conclusion of The Shadow of the Wind. And tune in to see
The Shadow Rising.
The Shadow Rising. Okay, tune in next week for as we go into the second half of The Shadow Rising. Will we like Fael? Probably not.
No, we won't. I've already finished the book. We won't like her.
Okay, we won't. Well, then we won't like her.
Hannah, you haven't finished the book, but I'm telling you right now, you won't like her.
I'm sure I will not. She's the worst.
She has no redeeming qualities.
Awesome. And Perrin has been pooped on quite a bit in this book.
Yes.
So we will see you guys next week. And please
hopefully
remember,
on a happier ending.
Let's hope. Reach out to us on your thoughts of the first half of the book, on if you like Fael, on whatever you want. Reach out on all social platforms at OWWRpod. And you can also email us at OWWRpod@gmail.com. Please remember.
If you like Fael, I'm concerned.
Me too. So concerned. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Rating, reviewing, and subscribing is a great way to get us out to other listeners. We look forward to next week, and we will see you soon. Bye.
Bye.